And so anything's worth it. But to start thinking about that and thinking about, these people are someone else's fathers or children. You had some people here just recently that are talking about torture victims. Some of you have been involved in anti-torture efforts, etc., raising the awareness of torture. So are these our enemies or not? Are these people who got caught into something? There's a chaplain, a Muslim chaplain. He's American. He became Muslim. He's actually from a Chinese family. And he was the chaplain at Guantanamo Bay. And he just wrote a book, God and Country, and talks about how his only role was to try to attend to Muslims that are caught in Guantanamo Bay and help them, because I know a lot of Muslim people. Since 9/11, I make it a point to do Ramadan with them, to fast with them, and to go over and spend time with them. There's a mosque across the street from the Catholic Church I was pastor of in San Francisco, and learn how to kind of see what they're going through. And it's pretty rough. I got called out one day to go to a funeral, a memorial, for a young man who was a taxi driver. We in San Francisco, every year on the Feast of St. Francis, we bless the animals. And so then the taxi driver said, well, we're getting more attacks than the animals are. Will you bless our taxi cabs? I said, okay, why not? Well, a lot of them are Muslims. A lot of them are ragheads. They got these things wrapped around their head, So that surely makes them suspect. That makes them bad. That makes them evil. That makes them a target. They are enemies. Well, this one young man, he had a turban around his head, only he wasn't a Muslim, he was Sikh. Sikhs are India, that sort of part of the world. And they're not Muslims. But he was like 20 years old, and his family were having a hard time, so he dropped out of college and started driving a taxi. And somebody got in the taxi, and that person was somebody who was afraid of our enemies, these people that wear turbans. So shot him, killed him. So they had a memorial along the side of the freeway. 200 taxi cabs gathered there because they couldn't go to the Sikh temple. Only Sikhs can go there. So we went there, and the parents were there, and the mother's just crying, and she says this terrible, terrible terrorist that people are talking about was her son, and how he did drop out of school to help the family. So the only trouble was he didn't hardly bring any money home because he was a nice guy, and he'd see these older ladies carrying their shopping bags and all that, so he would give them rides in his taxi, and he would even take them and buy them food. So he didn't bring a whole lot of money home, but that's the kind of kid he was. 20 years old. Somebody killed him because he had a turban around his head. Bobs don't have GPS. And probably some of you, your folks have cars, or even you have those little gadget things, GPS things that you can find your way. Well, they're so accurate now, they want to bring in all the nuclear weapons and remake them with really sophisticated GPS. But anyway, they're so sophisticated now that they want to spend several $100 billion remaking all the nuclear weapons so that they can be more accurate. No! They have this thing called Bombplex 2030, by 2030, to renew all the nuclear weapons that we have. We've already signed a treaty saying we're going to get rid of all nuclear weapons. And we should, and hopefully Barack Obama, if he gets elected tomorrow, praise God, if he gets elected tomorrow, we'll get rid of nuclear bombs and close down the prisons, stop them torturing people, and help us all to move towards a peaceful world. So, how do we go about getting rid of nuclear weapons? How do we go about realizing? It starts with us realizing that we do not have enemies. Yes, we have people that we have to watch out for. When I was in prison, I did not meet anybody there that I really thought was a bad person, evil person. But I did meet some people that were out of control. I remember one guy, the last cell I was in down in El Centro, California, there was one guy in there, and he's ranting and raving about how he killed his stepfather, his mother's new husband, because he was abusive or something like that. And he went on and on about it, how this guy was so bad. So he took the pool balls, they had a pool table, took the pool balls and assaulted him with the pool balls, beat him with the pool cue, and then turned the pool table over on top of him. Well, I began to get a little suspicious with that, because if you have a pool table in your house, don't try to lift it. I mean, they have these big sheets of lead, sheets of lead, and you can't really lift a pool table, so he might have been fantasizing just a bit. He did have to be, given time out somewhere, even if you had to have a key on the door. Well, the cells we were in had keys on the door too. 23 hours a day we were locked in these little cells, and you only get out, 1 hour, and that was just to take a shower, and that was about it. But the people there, really, I realized, but the first time I went to one of the places in Georgia, I was going to a jail one night. This was getting arrested at the School of the Americas, Fort Benning down in Georgia, because of teaching torture to people in Latin America. And so I went to this jail in Georgia, going in late at night. One jail that I'd been in, they had a senior cell. Yeah, that's me, I'm a senior. I'm 76 years old, yeah, I'm a senior. You only have to be 50. So at least it was quieter, because young guys in jail can be very noisy. Very noisy. So anyway, that was kind of quiet. So the next place I said, do you have a senior cell? They said, no, this is an old prison down in Georgia, Macon, Georgia. Cruel Hand Luke, they still had prison gangs and all that. So he says, oh, I'll take you down. So he took me down in Georgia, southern Georgia, through these cell blocks, and they're going, people are banging on the cases. Don't put that old man in here. Don't put that old man in here. Oh my God, they're going to kill me if they get me in there. Okay, don't put that old man in here. So anyway, oh God, I got in there, and like this one guy, he was just an older guy who's in for a couple armed robbery attempts or something, I don't know what, but he became like my son. And he still writes me, you're my real dad. He wasn't even sure who his real dad was, biological dad, but he wouldn't even refer to him as dad. But you're my dad, and he writes me, oh, I love you, Dad, oh, Dad, I just love you so much, you're so good, I love you, da, 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 da. And he's like enemy number one. But inside, he's just a kid. He's just a kid who's looking to be loved, and somebody to look out for him. So that's what we really have to do in our life. We have to think about how we get along with one another, and that we're all one. We're all meant to live together and to share life together. And I've never really I've been a priest for almost 50 years. I've never heard the confession of anybody I would send to hell. And the Pope assures us that God doesn't want to send anybody there either. And we shouldn't be wanting to do that. We shouldn't be wanting to say, oh, go to hell. I used to say that, I don't know if that's still a common expression, but I don't really want to see anybody in jail. Nobody should be in hell. We were created out of infinite love. Einstein said that if you put E equals mc squared, you put energy, mass times the speed of light, you can make an energy that can blow up the whole world. But really, if we get love, compassionate love, to that intensity, we can reform this. We can create a whole world, loving energy. In the United States now, I kind of have my kind of hopes that tomorrow we'll get a new president who comes from a different village, as they say. His father coming out of Kenya, his mother coming out of Hawaii, and maybe there'll be a different vision. Some people say there's a movement going on in our world to change it. When this Iraq war began, as disgusted as most of us were, 30 million people turned out on the streets to say, no, we don't want war, we want peace. Some people think, and I don't think, since I'm in Canada, I can say something that's a little bit political. I don't think it's too political to say maybe Barack Obama is part of a new movement. And there's a lot of people in the world, and it's you people that are going to change the world. And the biggest thing is, I think, is because you do communicate in new ways. I was listening on the radio in Berkeley one day, and they had a teen show. It's your age. And the kid your age was talking to this girl, communicating on email with this girl in Bosnia, over in the Middle East, in Ukraine. And she was communicating to her. And then she says, oh, there's some troops coming down our street. Oh, they're coming right by our house. Oh, they're coming up on our lawn. Oh, and then he hears no more. So he's crying on the radio in Berkeley about this girl in Bosnia who he has come to know and love. Not love like he wanted to go marry her or anything, but he had come to love her like a sister. And all of a sudden, they were beating down the door of her house. All of a sudden, he was motivated to go do something about her.